Were you the mature one growing up?
The one everyone said was an old soul in a tiny body.
While other kids were playing, maybe you were mediating fights between your parents, feeling like a tiny diplomat in a war zone. Perhaps you became the keeper of your mother's secrets, or the rock for your father's anxieties.
You learned to read the emotional temperature of a room with the precision of a meteorologist predicting a storm. Your childhood report card might have said responsible and helpful, but you knew the truth. You weren't just a mature kid.
You were a miniature employee in a job you never applied for.
This experience of growing up too fast has a name, and understanding it is the first step to finally feeling free.
It shaped the adult you are today in ways you might not even realize.
It explains why you struggle to relax, why you feel responsible for everyone, and why letting someone take care of you feels so deeply uncomfortable. And in this video, we are going to unpack the psychology behind it all.
I'm going to share the 4 most common signs that show up in adults who grew up too fast.
And the 4th one might surprise you, as it often hides in plain sight. So if you've ever felt like you're carrying the weight of the world, stay with me, because you're about to understand why. If those opening moments resonated with you, it's not a coincidence. It's a shared story for millions of people who feel like they missed a part of their own childhood.
This experience isn't just a personality trait, it's a recognized psychological pattern called parentification.
Putting a name to it is powerful because it moves the experience from a place of personal shame, the feeling that something is wrong with me, to a place of objective understanding.
Parentification is essentially a role reversal between a child and a parent.
Psychologists often break it down into 2 types. There's instrumental parentification, where a child takes on practical adult responsibilities like paying bills, cooking for the family, or raising younger siblings. Then there's emotional parentification, which is often more invisible but just as damaging. This is when a child is forced to act as a therapist, a confidant, or a peacemaker for their parents. They become the emotional support system for the adults who were meant to be supporting them.
In this video, we're going on a journey together through this experience.
First, we'll explore the why by looking at the common roots of parentification. Then, we'll dive into the how it shows up in your adult life with those 4 common signs I mentioned. After that, we'll uncover the unexpected hidden strengths that this challenging childhood gave you. And finally, we'll get to the most important part, the what now, with practical steps to start healing. You are not alone in this, and my goal is to give you the clarity and the tools to build a lighter future.
So, where does this all begin?
For most people, it starts in one of a few common family dynamics where a parent is unable to fulfill their role, forcing the child to step up. One of the most common causes is parental illness, either physical or mental. Imagine a child whose parent suffers from chronic depression. That child might learn to suppress their own needs and feelings to avoid triggering the parent's sadness. They become a tiny caretaker, bringing them tissues, making sure they eat, and offering words of encouragement. This is a heavy burden, as the child is effectively parenting their own parent. Another major factor is family conflict, especially contentious divorce. When parents are at war, a child is often put in the middle. They might become a messenger, carrying hostile information back and forth between households. Or they become a confidant for one parent, forced to listen to complaints about the other and offer emotional support.
This forces the child to navigate complex adult emotions and loyalties, something they are developmentally unequipped to handle.
The child essentially becomes a marriage counselor before they've even had their first crush.
Substance abuse within the family is a third powerful catalyst for parentification. A child of an alcoholic parent, for instance, often lives in a world of chaos and unpredictability. They may have to take on instrumental roles, like getting younger siblings ready for school because the parent is incapacitated. They also take on emotional roles, like trying to hide the parent's drinking from outsiders or trying to de-escalate their unpredictable moods. They learn that their survival depends on being hyper-aware and responsible because the adult in the room is not. Finally, sometimes parentification is driven by cultural or family expectations. In some families, the oldest child is explicitly or implicitly expected to be a third parent. This is especially true in families with many children or in immigrant families where an older child may have to act as a language and cultural translator for the parents. While this is often born of necessity, it still places an immense burden on the child, robbing them of a carefree existence. These root causes all lead to a fundamental disruption in the parent-child relationship. The child learns a dangerous lesson. My needs are secondary, and my value comes from what I can do for others. It's a lesson that gets wired into their nervous system and carried into adulthood. The roles of helper, fixer, and peacemaker become fused with their identity. The child who took on too much responsibility doesn't just stop when they leave home. They become an adult who can't stop. This conditioning just doesn't fade away. It solidifies into distinct patterns of behavior. So, now that you understand why this happens, let's get to the part you've been waiting for. How does this actually affect you right now in your daily life? The childhood experience of parentification leaves deep imprints that manifest in adulthood in 4 primary ways. The first, and perhaps most obvious, is a sense of chronic responsibility and a high risk of burnout. As an adult, you might feel like you are the only one who can hold things together, whether at work, in your family, or with your friends. You are the project manager of your own life and everyone else's, constantly tracking moving parts and anticipating needs. Relaxing feels unproductive and stressful because your brain is always scanning for the next problem to solve or person to help. This leads to a constant state of low-grade anxiety and eventually complete burnout, because you are still operating from the belief that if you let go, everything will fall apart. The second symptom is a profound difficulty with intimacy and vulnerability. If you grew up as the caretaker, you learned that your role was to give support, not receive it. As an adult, this makes true intimacy terrifying. Letting someone see your struggles, your needs, or your messy side feels like a fundamental failure of your duties. You might be great at being a partner who is supportive and caring, but you deflect compliments, minimize your own problems, and never truly let anyone carry your burdens. This creates a hidden loneliness, even when you're surrounded by people who love you. The third sign is a fierce hyper-independence and an inability to ask for help. Your childhood taught you that relying on others was risky and often led to disappointment. The motto you learned was, if I want it done right, I have to do it myself. This manifests in the adult who gets sick with the flu but tells everyone they're fine and continues to work from bed, refusing offers to bring them soup. You learned that your needs were a burden, so you became hyper-independent to never be a burden again. While it makes you incredibly capable, it also isolates you and prevents you from experiencing the deep connection that comes from mutual reliance. And the fourth sign, the one that often hides in plain sight, is chronic people-pleasing and weak boundaries.
This might seem contradictory to hyperindependence, but they are two sides of the same coin. As a child, your safety and stability often depended on your ability to keep the adults around you happy and calm. You became an expert at anticipating needs, smoothing over conflicts, and saying yes even when your inner voice was screaming no. As an adult, you feel responsible for managing other people's emotions. You'd rather inconvenience yourself than risk disappointing someone else, and the thought of setting a firm boundary can induce intense guilt and anxiety. These four symptoms create a portrait of a highly capable, responsible, yet exhausted and secretly lonely adult. It's easy to look at this list and feel discouraged. But the story doesn't end there. In fact, each of these challenges has a powerful upside. But this experience didn't just leave scars, it also forged some incredible strengths. And later on, I'll show you how to turn these burdens into your greatest assets. Okay, that was heavy. But what if I told you that everything we just discussed has a flip side? What if your greatest struggles have also created your greatest strengths? Your experience as a parentified child, while painful, also equipped you with a unique set of superpowers. Let's reframe those symptoms we just talked about. That feeling of chronic responsibility didn't just lead to burnout, it cultivated exceptional competence and leadership. You are the person in any workplace or friend group who can be counted on to get things done effectively and efficiently. You see the big picture, anticipate problems, and organize chaos into order. These are not small things. They are the hallmarks of a natural leader and a highly valued team member. Next, your hyperindependence didn't just make you isolated, it forged deep resilience and resourcefulness. You learned from a young age that you had to rely on yourself, and as a result, you developed an incredible ability to solve problems and navigate crises. When things go wrong, you don't panic, you get to work. You have a deep well of inner strength that many people never have the chance to develop, making you incredibly steady in a storm. And what about that tendency for people-pleasing and weak boundaries? The flip side of that constant emotional scanning is profound empathy and high emotional intelligence. Your hypervigilance didn't just make you anxious, it made you one of the most empathetic people in any room. You can sense what others are feeling before they say a word. You know how to make people feel seen, heard, and understood, which makes you an incredible friend, partner, and colleague. This ability to connect with others on a deep emotional level is a rare and beautiful gift. The key here is balance. The goal is not to erase these traits, but to bring them into conscious control. It's about learning to wield your confidence without burning out, using your resilience while also allowing yourself to be supported, and offering your empathy without sacrificing your own needs. Your past forged these tools, and your future is about learning to use them for your own benefit, not just for the benefit of others. If these ideas about finding strength in your story are resonating with you, consider subscribing. We explore topics like this every week to help you understand yourself better. All right, enough with the why. Let's talk about the how. Understanding your strengths is one thing. Putting them to work for your own healing is the next step. So let's get practical with a few concrete things you can start doing today to begin reparenting yourself. First, actively practice receiving. This is a direct antidote to hyperindependence and difficulty with vulnerability. The next time someone gives you a compliment, resist the urge to deflect it or downplay it. Thank you. When a friend offers to help you with something, even if you can do it yourself, consider saying yes just to practice the act of being supported.
Second, intentionally schedule play.
As a parentified child, you likely had very little time for purposeless, joyful activities. As an adult, you need to consciously reintegrate this into your life. This isn't about a productive hobby. It's about doing something just for the fun of it, with no goal in mind. It could be dancing around your living room, doodling in a notebook, or walking in nature without a destination.
Third, learn to set emotional boundaries.
This starts with the radical realization that you are not responsible for other people's feelings. Your job is no longer to manage everyone else's feelings. Your only job is to manage your own. Practice pausing before you say yes to a request. Ask yourself, do I have the time and energy for this? And do I truly want to do it? Finally, start a dialogue with your inner child. This might sound strange, but it's a powerful way to heal. You can do this through journaling or a simple visualization. Picture yourself as a child and ask, what did you need back then that you didn't get? Then, as the capable adult you are today, you can give that to yourself now, whether it's permission to rest, to play, or to feel safe. Today, we've journeyed from understanding what it means to be the mature kid to giving that experience a name, parentification. We explored its roots in family dynamics and saw how it blossoms into patterns of chronic responsibility, hyper-independence, and people-pleasing in our adult lives. But we also discovered that this story isn't one of pure damage. Within those struggles, you forged incredible competence, resilience, and a profound capacity for empathy. Healing isn't about erasing your past or getting rid of these strengths. It's about learning to hold them in balance, to care for yourself as deeply as you care for others. So if you were that mature kid, know that you weren't just mature. You were resilient, you were capable, and you were carrying a weight that wasn't yours to carry. The adult you are today has the power to change that narrative. You can learn to receive, to play, to set boundaries, and to honor your own needs. You have permission to put down the weight you were never meant to carry. Your childhood may have shaped you, but it does not have to define the rest of your life. You get to write the next chapter. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey of understanding. If this video gave you a new perspective, please consider subscribing for more deep dives into psychology and self-understanding. I would love to hear from you in the comments. Let me know which of the 4 adult signs resonated most with you. Sharing your experience can be incredibly validating for others on the same path. Until then, be kind to yourself.